I'm sure a good number of you have wondered why policies failed. I've actually also wondered as well. As a matter of fact, when I hear how much government spends in millions and billions and trillions on policies that don't last, I'm always very amazed, just as amazed as you are. Like, what is going on? And the funny thing actually is that they've actually spent so much money on everything except the solution. So what they have done is not even the solution to the problem. And you're like, why is government always making these kind of decisions? Decisions that are obviously not the solution to the problem, right? So we're going to be talking about that. Sitting, getting for a ride is going to be very exciting. Why does that happen? And before I talk about that, let me start by defining what policy is. Government policy. What is policy? Policy is a sum total of the actions that the government decides to make. And guess what I added to my definition recently based on research and the work that a lot of academicians have made? Policy is not only what the government has decided to do. Policy is also what the government decides not to do. Yes. So by not doing something, they are doing something. So government silence on an issue or government inaction on an issue is actually policy as well. So again, policy is what the government decides to do and what government decides not to do. Now, before I go into why policies fail, now there's something that we need to discuss, and it is something very, very important, right? And just before we talk about, why policies fail, it is important to talk about the kind of government that succeeds. So the qualities that you will typically find in a government that will succeed. I traveled to a number of countries and I interact with governments as a result of my work within the development sector. And there are three major things that I've seen that are common in countries that work, in governments that work. Number one is that the leaders have a heart for the people. They genuinely want to serve the people. They are driven by a desire and a passion to see that the people that they lead or govern lead better lives. So when they are taking decisions, they are looking at it through a citizen-centered approach to say that for the person that is living in the slums, for the person that is walking on the street, for the student that is in the university, for that woman that does a small trading business at some corner of some market, for that trader, that man who is a small trader that runs a barbing business and uses electricity to power his clippers, how will this policy affect these people? Those governments are very thoughtful. They are they put the citizens at the center of everything that they do. They connect with people. They feel the pulses of people. No, they don't sit down in an office to design policies that they think, just out of the blues, this is what the solution is. No, they go out into the field. They ask questions. They interact with people. And that informs the solution that they put on the table. So number one, they are citizen-centered and they have a heart for the people. During President Obama's presidency, it was said that he always read every day from the American people. Yeah, if I remember very clearly, he would read 5 letters every day from American people from all across the states of America, right? So that kind of a precedent that when a traumatic event happens in a place, he's not the last person to get there. He goes there. He feels the pain of people. He feels the pulses of people. He talks to them, right? Governments that do well, they connect with people. Number two, these governments are ruled by leaders that have character, that are competent, and have capacity. We call it the 3 C's in the School of Policy, Politics, and Governance. Character, competence, capacity. They are not just people that woke up and just because they had ambition, they got into that place. Of course, ambition, when it is fueled by purpose, is not a bad thing. But when it is fueled by greed and selfishness, it's one of the most terrible things ever. Leaders in governments that do well and governments that thrive have Capacity. What is capacity? The ability to do. They have built that inner capacity. They have built their leadership skills. They are able to execute. They are strategic people. And even if they don't have the sum totality of everything it takes, they are surrounded by people that are able to supply them that intelligence that they need to lead effectively in that position. So there is capacity, there is competence, they are competent people. Leadership has to do with competence, right? Leadership has to do with your ability to get things done. You must be strong in creating a vision that people can rally around. You must be strong in being able to compel people to follow you. You must be strong in your ability to get things done. You must be very strong when it comes to measuring the impact of the things that you have done. Right? And there is character, integrity, values, being driven by values, moral values of decency, of honesty, of putting in their best, of ensuring. In fact, in these countries, if leaders see that they have not done well in something, they just resign. They resign because they value their art of service and the dignity of their names, such that if they've done something that is obviously wrong, or if they don't seem to be steering the nation in the right direction, they just resign. Right? That's another thing you see. There's character, there's openness. You know, these leadership positions, they reveal who you are. Right? And so you find out that in these countries where things work, their leaders, and not only their president, of course this is expected of their president, but people in leadership positions within government, in ministries, in departments, in agencies, they all have character. They all are competent people. And of course, they have capacity. Number 3, they have a system of holding their leaders to account. There are systems of checks and balances. No, their legislature is not just the best friend of the executive, and then judiciary is just conforming to what the executive wants. No, there is something called balance of power. There are checks and balances to ensure that they don't fall into autocracy, where one person just makes a decision and nobody can challenge that decision. That is not democracy, right? So there are systems in place to ensure that there is check and balance, right? They are able to hold their leaders to account. There is government trust between the government and the citizens. There is accountability and there is transparency. And at this point, let me just talk about a big concern that I have had. And I'm totally in support of people paying their taxes. I think that it is our civic responsibilities as citizens of a nation to ensure that we pay our taxes. However, if the government is only putting a robust system in place to collect taxes, but is not putting a robust system in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency about where our monies are going to, that is literally a time bomb waiting to explode. There's got to be equivalent transparency and accountability to say that for every kobo that is collected from Nigerians, from every naira that is collected from Nigerians, this is how it will be spent. If that is not put in place and it is not made clear along with this tax reform, there is something fundamentally missing here. And I want to call to Mr. Koye-Ladele, who I believe is a dignified and wonderful professional. I love what he has done so far. I do think that to boost the tax morale of people and to ensure that we trust the government and we are complying to these tax reforms that have been put in place, it is important that the government also comes out to tell us this is how your money will be spent. There's got to be increased accountability, not only increased ability to collect taxes from people, there's got to be increased accountability, increased transparency. If that is missing, the equation is not complete yet. Of course, there's a lot more. But in a country that works, in countries that work all around the world, these 3 things are in place. And of course, there is more. Can you think of more? Put in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.